UDA, by its own systems, by its own appeal, has young people elected. Yeah, because we have even the elderly, who the electorate still believe they have something to offer. We know democracy, you cannot simply discriminate on the basis of age, color, race. But more importantly, UDA has 2 women elected on their own motion. 2 women, one in Jewani Ward, Sophia, and another in Samburu, Isabella. Demonstrably, strong candidacy in women. The chair of this organization is a strong, able governor who, some man somewhere, a disgraced former deputy president, continues to profile, demonstrating a sense of hatred, lack of political sophistication, savagery. So we need to continue to mainstream and enhance women leadership. And now, it will be an anticlimax to this press if we do not also address our grave concerns, particularly to one man referred to as Wamunyoro. You know, by design, many of you have made him a subject of our political discussions, but you realize that he is as irrelevant as it gets. He managed some 1 or 2 seats that he was able to incite some ethnic basis against the regime of, or the government of William Ruto. What I want to tell this gentleman is that as a young Kenyan who's now not very young anymore, who probably has had a more illustrious struggle in this country's democratic transformation than he ever will. As Kindiki reminded him, Kindiki was a lecturer when he was stealing maize and relief food. I was also fighting in the Moi regime, serving as a commissioner when he was serving as a district commissioner or district officer. And by default or design, somehow his brother's death ushered him into member of parliament, and then by accident, as vice president, a mistake that UD has already corrected early in the day. His constant incitement for violence or creating a theater to incite violence must stop.
Yes.
Hii nchi si yako peke yako. We're now getting fed up with you trying to condition a country because you think you have some ethnic base somewhere, preparing it and inciting it for violence. You have done it repeatedly over this electoral period. Every time you have an issue, you threaten of consequences of 2027 based on past experiences. I want to assure you, yesterday you asked youth between 18 and 35 to show up at Siakago. Not even your own son between that age showed up. That shows you that your fallacy has now become something of public notoriety, which people have taken cognizance of. But I want to tell you, we were in the opposition with you. We lost gruesome elections in Kabuchai, in London, here in Naivasha. We never at one time threatened anybody with violence. We never at one time threatened anybody with the consequences of the 202 post-election violence. I think the public has spoken To a large extent, the public rejects your call for violence and intimidation. Today, I visited a lot of marginalized areas. I went to Turkana. I saw people who have never seen anything but war. War in the north, war in the west. I went to West Pokot. I saw people whose security is their biggest concern. And you think you're brave because you say, when mtoto ya Mau. It is, if that were to be true, it is your father who's Mau, not you. You are simply a district commissioner stealing maize and relief food. You have no credentials anywhere that has tested your courage or your bravery in terms of executing public agenda. So my advice to you is to tone down. It will not be as easy. I'm the one who has taken it upon myself because I know how reckless, how skewed, how unobjective you are to respond to all your letters. You write to the IG, I respond. Because I don't want to put these offices into the mud that you like to put people into. You write to the commissioner, IBC, I respond to you. Because UDA knows you better than anybody else. But we're asking you to cease and desist. We will not allow you, Rigiji or Wamunyoro, to mess this country up. You should stop threatening people with violence all the time. The monopoly of violence is only and only with the state. And that this state, this government has a duty to protect. It will protect the lives and properties of all Kenyan citizens. It will not allow you to replay the theatrics of June of 2024 and June of 2025. You must stop. The public has spoken. The overwhelming majority of this country has rejected your message. Savagery, an auxiliary of colonial divisions because you carry the same ideology of divide and rule. So it's time that you stop your violent approach or your call for violence. Every other time you are threatening this government, you are threatening this country with violence because sijui uko na mlima, sijui uko na nani. Even that mlima has demonstrated to you it is not subservient to you. Gallant sons and daughters of that mlima have demonstrated with you that they don't agree with you to a large extent. Professor Abraham Kithure Kindiki, the Deputy President, Cecily Mbeere, Kimani Ichung'wah, and other gallant sons of that region. So, and the second one is to stop threatening and intimidating democratic institutions of this country and constitutional commissions and institutions. You picked on a little girl from Mombasa, from Lamu. I have been very hesitant to react to that. Don't you be deceived that Fahima or Ethacon will be intimidated by you. They don't bear any allegiance to us. We hope and urge them to conduct their mandates with utmost diligence, with utmost independence, as per the constitutional role of their offices. But when you try to threaten them and profile them socially, don't you think that you will achieve those aims? A man of his caliber picking and casting aspersions on a 31-year-old young woman who has burst the banks of marginalization and stereotyping to become vice chair of the IBC, then a man with no wit, no wisdom, no focus, no vision, casts aspersions on her and tries to profile her. So I'm asking all independent commissions and all institutions of government not to fall into the intimidation and the ploys of this gentleman. It's his characteristic way. Alisema usiguze mlima, tukamugusa. Hatukugusa mlima, tulimgusa yeye. Hivi tu, si akaenda hospitali. So fall not in this prey of intimidation. All institutions must carry out their job as per the design of the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya. They must not be intimidated by this perennial gambler, characteristic, mode of attack. He had imagined that he was a bigger-than-life kind of person, constantly intimidating the police, intimidating the judiciary, intimidating the IBC. Even as we were in the opposition, I do not recall of any significant intimidation any of us had on institutions of government. We were in Kabuchai, we were in London, we participated in Msambweni. At no time did we accuse institutions of any foul play. The fellow has made it his business to pick and profile people. I think as a government, and I speak also as the appointing, or the party appoints government or nominates its government, that it is, again, stop this intimidation. I think moving forward now, we'll have a slightly serious approach to these kinds of reckless individuals. I think the most indefatigable leader of the opposition we had was Raila Odinga. And we saw he actually built institutions to protect democracy. This one is trying to break down these institutions and intimidating the country all the time. Where you see DCP, you see ethnicity. These are fringe little parties. Wiper, imepata kakiti kamoja hapo Mbeere North. Kameran kila mahali amepata ka. Me, I've grown. I used to be Wiper Secretary General. It's difficult to grow Kalonzo Musyoka beyond that region. Amepata kakiti yake kamoja. And he's held people captive in the quest for his ambition. Amepata kamoja, huyo Matiangi naye amepata kwao, ati hawataki kumlet down ili aweze kuja kunegotiate kwa kuwe president. Sasa wewe unajengwa na ukabila, alafu sisi tuku accept kama national president. The person who's always on the social media insulting us is some young gentleman who's a member of parliament. Akatuambia you are 900,000. Sasa sisi pia tuko wingi kuliko hiyo. Unajua mimi nikialish zile ma community zangu, badala ya kusema sisi ni wa Kenya, tunataka tu negotiate a national agenda, natuambia tunataka tupige hesabu hiyo. Kama ukipiga hesabu hiyo hakuna mahali huyo jamaa ataenda. Itakuwa kama ile Nyachae tu 2002. Watu wengi kumbe ni pale Gusii Stadium. Hata sisi tutapiga kelele, kumbe itakuwa hapo kwa stadium moja. Kenya ndio iko watu wengi. So, these are village parties. But galia UDA. Si mumeona nyinyi wenyewe. Mna hope you have been drawing this map. I hope mtachora nyinyi kama media. Some of you are graphic designers. Again kwa front page kesho, kwa vile now you have all the results. Vile nchi imekuwa yellow. Na pale haiko yellow, iko trafiki zetu wa orange. Alafu pia muweke pale hii discipline kala gani? White. Green. Weke hapo. Alafu muangalie vile itakavyoonekana. Because you guys are also graphic designers. Mnatuweka kwa vikapu all the time. So now you should graphic design. Wiper bado ni blue. Ime change to patriotic. Ama demo. Front. So muweke. These people, you should be told that ethnicity doesn't pay. Those who are not with the rest of Kenyans, as we approach this transformational agenda in the elections, you'll be out for a long time. Kenyans will be very unforgiving to people who constantly think that you need to push your tribesmate ili aje hata awapatie opportunities. Sasa kama nyinyi mnafikiria mkipigia Matiangi ndio mtapata mambo yenu, sasa kwani sisi ni mafala? Tuwape ili mtunyanyase? You must paint a national agenda. Their candidate who's affiliated got 1,000 votes in Banisa. So, in the Banisa parliamentary elections. So it's small pockets of ethnically incited electorates. And that's why William Ruto and the late Raila Odinga were urging for this broad coalition to be able to foster a broad and a united Kenya. And we want some of you to come in. Like this is a bit personal, I have to say it. You know, like the Magarini man, that was our candidate. We asked him politely that in the spirit of building this country, let Kombe finish his 1.5 years, and then we front you. He's a very credible candidate. Don't be cheated, those are his votes. We invested in him. He lost the elections by 26 votes in the 2002 general elections. But by making a wrong decision, he has now lost by an even severe margin. But he's one person I would be so happy to welcome back. You know, I also have this thing that goes in my mind, that sometimes people make decisions based on anger or ill-advised circumstances. So I hope some of those who, what made Panyako resign as vice chair? He resigned as vice chair to go and run under DCP. Meona leo amepost anarudi back to nursing. A good idea. Because hii siasa, you have to be methodical. Should have just come in as vice chair of UDA, probably tried a nomination, and you will have seen. So all these credible candidates, our candidates. By the way, if you poll some of these areas on the presidency, notwithstanding, William Ruto is unassailably ahead of any presidential candidate. So, even in Malava, in Kakamega County, he's far ahead. But people are also electing on some local dynamics. So, you leave UDA, you leave your nursing profession, at least you have chosen to go back to nursing. But I wish you well. I saw you had a very long day yesterday. I hope the Almighty grants you a quick recovery, both in terms of the politics and the anger. Also, anger is a disease. And that is the case. In some of these other areas, it was only our candidates. Ford Kenya, UDA, ODM, areas that the united opposition didn't think existed. And these people equally, no candidate thought they existed. So these are the kind of circumstances that we're in. But then I would pause here. I decided not to script myself today to read a written text. I scripted some few points that I wanted to discuss with this media. But as I said, the import of this was to most heartedly congratulate our candidates across the country, and every candidate who won, and all of those who participated in these elections yesterday. Asanteni sana. Yes, Dugu. Yeah.
What do we make of some leaders from UDA supporting other candidates in the Assembly Constitutional by-election?
They made such bad decisions. Institutions of political parties are institutions of democracy. Parties are built on the strength of its membership complement. This party today, we don't like to say it like our colleagues, is the biggest party in the country. It has the most expansive political infrastructure. This party is building physical infrastructure. We have built in to our programs our ideological infrastructure. Before you pick a war with this party, you must go and consult God in the evening, so that when you come, you do know that there are consequences to picking a war with your party, especially from within. So if they are very brave, Halwale, Seki, there are elections coming up again. Karis forfeited his seat. We lost the Isiolo Member of Parliament, if you recall, Isiolo South, and his son has joined us in the UDA party. So if they are brave, if they're the men they say they are, because they are elected, I'm asking them to resign from the party and face us in an election when these other elections are being run. Kama wewe sijui ni Masai warrior wa ukweli, wacha kuwa paper tiger. Unajificha nyuma, unajaribu kutupiga vita na hii DCP yako tumekushinda ndani ya Purko. I'm aware Seki was supporting the opponent. Halwale was supporting the opponent. Others were supporting the opponent. But you see, at least others, like the ones in let's say, Garissa, Fafi, they were supporting an opponent from within. The Member of Parliament was supporting an opponent from Fort Kenya. That is at least, there's mitigation in that. Again, if you are supporting an opponent, and you think you are that brave and that popular, run, resign. Raila Odinga once upon a time, when he decided that his place was no longer Fort Kenya, he resigned and ran for his Langata seat on an NDP ticket. Sasa huyu kama wewe ni bullfighter, kama wewe sijui ni Masai warrior, Moran sijui of the first class, resign. Face UDA in an election in the next. In fact, that guy said ako na rungu yake. He desecrated that rungu ati akiona mtu ya UDA atapiga. Don't beat watu ya UDA na rungu yako. Toka UDA. Enda simama na sisi. In fact, I'm inviting him to a contest. Aone. You know, this is cowardly. One of our esteemed former senators, I am reliably informed, has become a blogger. I am told she is posting bile, telling us how to run this party. I saw a message, she said, take it to the bank. UDA will lose. Sijui Baringo, sijui UDA. You could not even protect yourself from losing a seat in court. How do you predict what we will lose? This is political formation led by William Ruto, one of the most accomplished politicians and leaders in this country. In fact, I think there are only two of a kind, the late Raila and himself. So, those who dare us, there are consequences to it. So I'm asking Boni, he's my good friend by the way. Boni is one of my mentors in politics. In fact, I would want us to test him. Aende atukue tikiti ya DCP asimame. Ni DCP ama ni DAPK? Yeah, DAPK asimame. Tujaribu. Seki aende akachukue DCP asimame. We are ready for this by-election. Sinikupimana nguvu. They are bidding their time, wanting us to negotiate with them. Some of them, you are saying that they are willing to talk to William Ruto because they think they are kingpins of their regions. You can't use blackmail on this government and this leadership. That will not happen. So we're asking you in good faith. Kina Metho alisema sijui atavua nguo. He said something. What did he say? Ata resign. Mwambie resign. I thought he said he was going to strip naked. I was like, I don't know where I heard that from. Yeah.
James from the Standard newspaper.
Yes.
When you look at the win in Malava and Mbeere margin, what is your comment on that?
Seth Panyako lost to Malulu Injendi by 2,000 votes in 2002. Those are 2022. Those are the dynamics. Ruku won with less than 1,000 votes against the UDA candidate, then Gachagua. Those are the margins in those constituencies. You know, analysis is based on data. And if you look at Mbeere, that's how people have won that seat historically. In fact, if you look at Embu politics, people win with very narrow margins. Even our governor won with a narrow margin, but the votes went to William Ruto. It doesn't mean that they will divide the votes the same way. The presidential dynamics are different. But it's just that once somebody said it's his bedroom, he went and shouted like a juvenile. Ati sijui mtu alisema atakuja kuwakojolea na helicopter. Do you people ever listen to this man? Is it even right for some of you to put it in your media houses? You know, at least I want to commend the church. The church had realized that the only thing Rigiji does is to wake up on a Sunday morning to go to a church pulpit and say bad things. Most of them have stopped him. You've seen that for yourself. It's for you to take public notice, judicial notice of. If some of you also can stop, some of you I see you go na hizo vipindi zenu, mnamweka my microphone, sijui mnamfanyia ile cosmetic, ati mnataka kuminterview usiku. Mnaona mnafanya kitu ya maana, ati mnatafuta viewership. Have a philosophy for this country. There are things that you must not do to this country. That's why some of us these days are getting a bit more worn out coming to media houses, because you come to a media house, then you find yourself, you've been put in a panel with somebody and you're wondering, how do we relate? Because you guys are looking for viewership. Me, I'm looking for a healthy discussion based on informed discourse. Me, I'm not looking for viewership. I have, when I used to be in KCHR, I used to live in the TV. So it's no longer that big a challenge. I know I can do a good talk show, but also pair people with people who can have constructive discussions with. You pair us with people who their only sense is their Twitter handles. Unaenda mahali umewekwa kwa debate na panel na Twitter handle, unamwona kwa Twitter. So suddenly the media has thought it wise that this now man or woman is a big influencer. Yet there is no ideology. You know, some of us when we were younger, when I was in the student movement, I exuded Marxism. We believed in social economic transformation, which what you see today, to return the means of capital within the masses, or means of production. That's what we advocated for, an equal and fair society where everybody was dignified, right to housing, right to food, right to shelter, right to education. These are the things you see now. But nowadays, the content creation. In fact, I know sometimes people look for me, I've seen it once or twice, to say, tell me something very bad. And then ati anasema ameni-inject. Anaenda naikata hiyo kadogo anaitrend. Ati I injected the SG of the ruling party. Wewe unafikiria ku-inject mimi ni rahisi? Kuja kwa discussion.
Finally, from the opposition is blaming UDA for the violence in Malava. What is your opinion on that?
You know, politicians perpetuate violence. You know, I saw a very disturbing video of how low we have sunk. Today, even if I caught you on the wrong, ngumi moja mbili maybe, unfortunately, is not even right itself. Sindio? But to strip someone and then post it on a social media handle, and then you shout about everything, and then you say people are violent, sijui nasema Ruto achukue kila kitu, then you wail, like, in this politics, you don't wail. Sijui kwa nini huyu jamaa huyu na Malala kila wakati wanalialia. Hiyo anaenda kulia kwa keja. Unatoa machungu yote kija hapa unakuwa umekamua machozi nje. So politicians perpetuate this violence. And people sometimes act in self-defense. But as a party, we condemn it. As a party, we don't tolerate violence of any kind. But it's been in the nature of our politics, in some areas, that violence was even meted on my pupil master. Do you know I did my pupillage under one Kaluma, when I used to be a pupil at Kaluma, Muma, and Lumumba Advocates. He was my pupil master. He was beaten. It cannot have been us who beat him. So if you see, the opposition came with an intent to disrupt, but the government had its structures to ensure that the elections proceeded in a situation that was peaceful, free and fair.
SG, my name is Ndubi from Nation.
Yeah, I've read you before. Yeah. You once also sent me a message to text. Na sasa wewe unataka mimi nikujibu watu unaniletea mimi message hata sijui, can you comment? Wewe vipi Ndubi? Si nililenga. Leo sitolenga because you're here in person.
Yeah, there are claims about voter bribery that the United Opposition is saying that most of these candidates receive warrants through voter bribery in the polling stations.
Waweza kapeleka hiyo kwa court. I'm not the one who tests evidence, but truth be told, there is this gentleman called Stephen Leto. He posted some of these polls. Some of those polls were accurate. There is science. Our campaigns is supported by science. You will see areas that UDA didn't even set foot, because the science had told us, hapa hakuna kura yenu, na yini sahi we are looking for votes. We'll come to you when we are building the nation, whether you're in our party or not. So a lot of people spend a lot of time campaigning in the opponent's stronghold. So you will see, as you know, UDA, you register through a public portal. So unajua, hata wewe sahi unaweza kuwa, you can be somewhere and just register as a UDA member. You can decide to pay as a candidate. And we have an obligation legally, once you have paid as a candidate, if you are the only one who's applied for it, to run you, unless otherwise. Kama vile we decided in Magarini. So we issued these tickets, but there are areas we never even, because we thought either a coalition partner stood a better chance or we stood no chance. So the outcome is exactly what the opinion polls had indicated. My brother, you can pay as much as you want, but ultimately, when you are faced with the ballot, you are by yourself, Ndubi. The last time I checked, unless you're an assisted voter, nobody knows which side you have voted on. Any one or two more, or any question? But this is one of the few times, I'll not say who, I have been giving a conference, and the person who's been agreeing with me most is one of the guys in the media. So I hope I get a very positive story from you. I'll be finding out which media house you come from. So, because wajua kawaida media show no emotions, they don't clap, they don't laugh, but there was one who was agreeing with me. Kama anasema hii ni point, hii ni point. And I kept speaking because I can see he was nodding on and on. So anyway, that's said and done. I want to wish Kenyans a happy December. It starts next week. Those will be mashujaa, we will honor you. Alafu tuingie Christmas. Mujichunge. As Kibaki says, musikunywe sana. Na mujichunge, musende mbio sana na magari. Alafu baada hapo, tukuje New Year, tuendelee na mipangilio ya serikali na ya kiraia na ya kitaifa. But we really hope we can remain united as a country. I'd love to do this we'd love to do this with the media a lot more, so that you understand us. In fact, we want to have you sometimes in the future, if your editors would allow, Ndubi and the rest of you, when there are no cameras, you ask us the hard questions. Things that you also sometimes think you'll be crossing the line. Muje muulize. Ruto, 1, 2, 3, mumulize. But then one of the things here, when the president sits there, you will think he is just a first among equal. Everybody presents his views. There are positions that we have taken, which we advised him, and he accepted. The position he took, we advised him, he has stepped down on those positions. But on the overall, he's the team leader. He actually finally bears the responsibility. Sinyi munipigie kama rais, sio mimi. So ultimately he takes responsibility. When this government fails, you say William Ruto. When this government succeeds, it's William Ruto. So he takes the ultimate responsibility of the decisions he makes, but listens to counsel. So all of you can come and counsel, because also some of you meet people and stakeholders that we can even hardly imagine to meet. You know, as I part ways, you know, remember there was a time, the special branch, which is the national intelligence, used to have a lot of members of the media as its recruits. Reason being, the information that is shared with you, the stories you receive vis-a-vis the stories you kill, probably the ones you kill are even more. But the information you get from various stakeholders can inform public debate. So sometimes look for practical platforms to put some of these things into use. I think that's what we as a UDA government are planning, and a continued engagement with the people. So asanteni sana, tumeshukuru sana, na kesho nataka kuona hiyo map imebadilika yellow. The country has become yellow.